power and prestige and pay draw to those who would play the intelligent schemes to the limits. What gain for them to make a law simple? And on it goes. What gain for them to make a law simple? See, what they're saying is the lawmakers, there's no reason for them to make a law simple. There's no reason to make it readable. They're being paid to make it difficult, and they're being kind of prodded by the lawyers to make laws difficult, and most of the people that make laws are lawyers today. Why? I don't know. You don't know. Those are the people that run. Why do they run for making laws? Because they have a vested interest, of course. So how are we going to make the laws, and who's going to make them in the new legal system? Let's start with who's going to make them. The problem found in trying to elect a person to represent you are legion. The first is the total misunderstanding, and then the lack of regulation in advertising. As we have said again and again, you cannot be manipulated by emotion, and that emotion you can. As we've said again and again, you can be manipulated by emotion, and that emotional push is coming from other humans. Those who create advertising understands the concept and have developed it to an art form. There is a very compelling need to regulate advertising as if it were a big monster forcing you to do things that you don't want to do or wouldn't ordinarily do, which is exactly what it does. We have all regulated all manner of things that have no effect on man, and then we leave advertising alone as if it were a child's toy and very safe. The truth is, advertising is very dangerous to every man, woman, and child in this country. Unregulated, it has almost single-handedly changed our moral system to a system where money dictates our moral choices. The next new thing created by advertising is our total focus. Those left out of the game of I am better than you are run to drugs and other quick joys to hide from the fact that they're left out. We have and will pay a very high price if we can't come to grips with that dilemma. Regulate advertising. Teach seeing through the tricks of advertising in school. Force your candidates to stand on the truth platform. No honest man can ever compete against a dishonest man who can use unregulated advertisement to spread his lies. What did you say? What did they say here? No honest man can ever compete against a dishonest man who can use unregulated advertising to spread his lies. If an honest man can't compete with that, then you don't get honest men in your government. What does that mean? Get rid of advertisement. Make your candidate stand on the truth platform. Make the candidate fulfill what it is he's promising. You know, constantly they're saying prioritize, check to see what's going on. And one of the things that you have to do is you have to make sure that your politician that you elect is doing what he says he's going to do. Why would a politician do what he says he's going to do unless it's something that you control? You see, the reason your politicians won't do anything for you is because you don't control them. You don't own them, you don't pay for them, you don't anything. And what did they do here? They changed it so that you control them. You elect them or you don't elect them. And the money that they use to get elected comes from you. And advertisement as advertisement is illegal. And now that you stand there and you're recorded. I mean, if you would look at the politicians' system, political system as the new system would be, you'd be standing in front of people with the television, being asked questions and answering the questions. And if you say you're going to do something, it's recorded. And if you don't do it down the road, you're out. I mean, it isn't very hard for the people to say, oh, you didn't do what you said you were going to do. Goodbye. They can't do that now because there's advertising and there's lies, and there are people that give you lies so you don't know. You know, one person says, oh, what did they say? You spend $1 billion on the school system in the state of Michigan. The other one says, You got rid of $1 billion that would have gone to the school system for education. Who's telling the truth? Hey, you don't know. It's advertising. But in the news system, because you have People's Trust News investigators, you'll know. You'll know exactly what's going on. And when you vote for a person, you'll know. Man, what a change. They go on and say we'll be making the laws understandable and teachable. By law, has to be understandable and teachable. That means anyone who's allowed in a public place must be able to understand any law that may pertain to him. Why then do we need lawyers to make these new kind of laws that get in your way? Why do we need lawyers anyway? They make laws that aren't understandable. And so why do we need lawyers? We don't need them. We need government employees, our employees, that make the laws that are understandable, because they have to do it by law. And so, you go to school and you learn the laws of the land, and that is no big thing. And they're understandable. The jury of 12 common people will be running the new court trials. We can't even use complicated laws in the courts. Can't we use common people to make the laws? Can't we use you or your neighbor to make the laws? In truth, wouldn't that be better anyway? As the new system begins to take hold, you will see the common man in office, and the intelligence gains players out on their ears. Oh, wouldn't that be great? Did you get that? You might be a congressman, or maybe your next door neighbor. Is that different? I mean, you think, it's got to be a lawyer and rich. And everything changes so it can be your neighbor, and your neighbor knows exactly what your problems are because he lives right next door to you. And, it isn't some ridiculous, he gets his priorities. What do you need? Oh my goodness, wouldn't ever want our government to take care of what we need. Yes, we do. The third need will be the challenge in the power structure of those who are elected. Most of the problem will go away as the common man enters the political arena and sees the games being played. Still, some changes may be needed in the beginning. Do away with seniority power. Pick those who know something about a proposed law. Put them in a group or a committee, and then draw lots among them to see who your committee chairman is going to be. It isn't that hard. Remove the game-playing rules. If any rule can be used to stop or unnecessarily slow a consideration of a proposed law, remove it. If any law can stop a law from being proposed, remove it. If any rule denies the newest member of the legislature the same power as the oldest member, remove it. You see that they keep going right to the key, right to the place where the problem is. They don't dance around with the, they don't let your politician dance you around. They just say, look, seniority rules out. Okay, who knows anything about automobile laws? You got people raise their hand. So you take those people and put them in a committee, and then you draw lots, and that's the chairman. And then somebody says, the chairman wouldn't let us bring this to the total political group to vote on it. Well, he's out because it's against the law. You can't stop a law from being brought to the full political arena and voted on, and that's the law. So, what did they say? They said there are a couple of things that you should do once you get a hold of the Congress, and these are some of the recommendations. Do they have to be exactly the way that they say it here? No, but you get the idea, and that's what they always say. You get the idea. What do you need? You need to remove the seniority rules because they stop things from happening. Okay, what's the last thing that's needed? Remove the special interest groups from politics. How? A federal election funded with a set amount to be given to candidates who can generate the top number of votes in a 1-900-U vote line. Now, let me explain what that is. 1-900-U vote. This is the way it works. Each person, any person can sign up, and they're given any person. Now, you understand, not a person that lives in a house, blah, blah, blah. But one of the things that we have no idea why you can't get, and I have no idea, nobody understands why you don't want. You have an ID card. You have an ID card that you carry with you, so that if a police officer or anybody else that has the legal right to the information wants to know who you are, there you are. You have a picture of you, and it's a card, and it's made by the federal government, and it's there, and it has you. That's you. If you Social Security, or if you want a credit card, and you have to have ID, there it is. Whatever you have to have, a driver's license, you have to have an ID, there it is. It's like your Social Security number. You have it if you're a legal citizen, and it's picture ID, and there's no question. And if it's fake, you're in deep trouble, because it's important to not have it fake. But anyway, now what do we have? We have a 1-900-U-VOTE telephone line. What is it? It's you call a computer, and you say, and you're given a code, could be your Social Security number, and you give it that code, and you give it to the computer, and the computer says, what is it you wish to, who is it you wish to vote for? I mean, they're going to say, what is it that you want? And you say, I want to vote for the person that's going to be elected, like 6 months from now. And the computer says, okay, who are you voting for? And you vote. So you call 1-900-U-VOTE. And the computer says, what do you want? And you say, I want to vote for the person, this person who's running for office. And they say, okay, give me your vote. And you vote. Now, anybody who says that there's something wrong with the voting and it's fraud and the numbers aren't right, they can call you back, because your number also has a telephone number connected to it, and that's all you need is the telephone number. The computer calls you back and says, how did you vote? And if you voted the same way, the complaint is thrown out. If you didn't vote the same way, somebody is going into the legal system. Finally, a way to check your voting and make sure there's no crookedness going on. So, how does the government pay for that? You pay for it. It costs you 50 cents for the phone call. It's no big deal, but you get to vote. And that 1-900-U-VOTE, it doesn't have to be that number, but you understand, 1777-U-VOTE. That could be used by your political people to ask you questions about what you want. It can be used by anybody that has a legal right to use it to find out what you think. If you want to, you might even have it listed that these are the people you can call, or these people you can't call because they don't want to be bothered. You know how it works. And it can be done very easily because you're using the computer, and the computer has the information, and so on and so forth. So now you have the people who get the top number of votes. When they do that, those people then get a set amount of money given by the government to be used to to explain why it is that they should be elected. They can go on television with it or whatever they do, and obviously they can't, the advertisement's out, so they can't be jumping up and down using emotion, but they can say, this is what I believe, and this is what I'll do, and this is what, and it's on record. It's videotaped. So you can go to that person later and say, you said you were going to do these 3 things, and not only didn't you do them, but you did exactly the opposite. You're out. And it's the time that we started doing that. And People's Trust News is going to say, look at this guy. He's voting exactly the opposite of what he said he was going to. And what happens? The people who are slowly but surely eventually elected will be the people that will do what it is that they say they will do, and they're doing what it is they said they were going to do, and they got elected because that's what you want. So you have a 1-800-U-VOTE or 1-900 or whatever it is, U-VOTE system, and the top people will be given the money, and then they run their whatever it is they do for a month or two, and then you have another 1-900 you vote, and the top X number of people will be given a certain amount of money by the federal government, and they may do it one more time, and each time you're reducing the number of people, you understand? Because the top number of people get the money. If you don't make it there, you're no longer running. So it's a voter system, and that's the system that should be used for all voting, and the computer or the person or the People's Trust News can investigate in any area. The computer has the person's identification number and the way they voted. And obviously, anybody can go in there and call you up and say, how did you vote? And you say, this is how I voted. Well, you don't want to do that because you don't want people to know how you voted. Well, the first thing is nobody else is going to know because it's against the law to give that information out. So it isn't against the law to get it. It's against the law to give it to anybody for any reason other than the reasons that were designed. And that's what they do all the time, is they make sure that you understand. Try to understand. You have to get the guy that's giving out the information. You have to get him, not try to stop everybody. You can't stop people from getting information. Forget that. Stop the person that's disseminating it or using it wrongly. That's the key. And there are so much fewer people, and they're going to be afraid to do it because they're going to go into the legal system. So you had 1 or 2 1-900 votes, and then you have the 1-900 to elect your person that you want, and they're not allowed to use any money except the money the government gives. That amount of money, they can, if you're given $10,000 to get elected by the federal government, which is you, then if you spend $10,001, you're going to be investigated. So you can only use the money that the federal government gives you. That gets the wealthy and those people that are using money to buy politicians right out of the system. So that's the first part of how you keep the special interest groups out of politics. And they said the next we have discussed above, there's provision about public trust, the public trust laws, the total concept. That concept of public trust laws is kind of critical to what's going on, because the person that's trying to do the bribing also gets caught up in that. The person that was bribed is caught up in that, and they can end up losing everything that they've ever hoped to have. And so they say, just give you a rough idea of what it is that we're talking about. Public trust laws go like this: any gift, vacation, dinner, or perk of any kind paid by someone else other than the government's monies that you'll be using will be suspect. Even after an elected official leaves office, he or she will be watched for payment for work well done, given by special interest persons or groups. That one will be tough, but we're sure a jury of 12 can make the decision, as can any elected official. That should be enough to keep the special interest groups out of politics. This public trust law will be enforced to the letter, and your $1 a week will make it so. One of the things they say is that if you're the person trying to change the law by using money or bribing, you also are breaking the law, and you also go into the legal system. So you have the briber and the bribee, and boy, what a change that is. They also say it's a little bit different here. To allow equal access to the representative would require a home office or a mandatory time period where the person had to be present at whatever place that. Now we're talking about a politician. Your politician for your area has to have a mandatory time period to be present or have a home office that you can get to. Appointments would be given in the order of their request, one per person until there are no requests, with no other factors allowed. So now you'll be able to talk to your representative if on the phone, or go to his office, or however it is that, so your voice is going to be heard. And the laws say that the appointments are given in the order of request, not the order of how much money you have or how important your representative might think you are, or so on and so forth. Each person who makes a request will have his thing put in order of whatever order there is for the request. And there are no other factors allowed. So you're able to talk to your representative if that's what you want. Each representative could also get a 1-900 vote number in his area for anybody who wanted to vote on what it might say on television. Oh, we're thinking about doing this in your state, and what do you think? Call 1-900 you vote Proposition 6. And if you don't want to call, don't call. If you don't care, don't call. But if you do care, call. And if enough people call that care and they do what you don't want them to do, well, maybe you'll know better than to not call next time. What does it take to call? Maybe 25, 50 cents in a couple seconds of your time. Come on. That's what we really need. Why? What we've got now is sick. We've got conventions, and we've got on, and all these things to keep you from having a representative. Why 1-900 vote? Then you get to hear, okay, now I've told you what I want. 1-900 vote. Okay, I got the politician elected that I want. Do you understand what they're saying? All the time they're saying they make things so complicated, these game players, and it doesn't have to be that way. So how does it have to be? 1-900 vote. You pay 25 cents for the phone call, and you tell your congressman what you want, and your congressman will do what it is you want, because the only way they stay in office is if they get voted for. And if you don't vote for them, they don't go into office. Nobody's bribing them, nobody's giving them dinners, no golfing out, no, nothing that's not acceptable. No dinners, no drinks, no money to your wife, no money to your nephew, no money to your grandfather or your mother. No way do you get bribed in any way, shape, or form, because the People's Trust News are watching you, and if you get bribed, you lose everything, and so does the briber. And wow, what a way! That's so great. We finally did something the way it should have been. So now you have decided who it is that makes the laws and how they are chosen, and now we must determine how the laws are made. We've done away with seniority and all the other games and given more power to the elected official than what he would have coming in new. So the need is to remove the games used in making the laws themselves. What are they talking about? Well, they tell you how should it be done. Okay, a law or a change will be suggested in either house. And by the way, they haven't changed your Senate or your House of Representatives at all. They've left everything the same. So a law or a change will be suggested in either house. Each suggestion will be reviewed by the full House on the basis of the time in which it was posted or proposed, and in that review it will be prioritized and sent to committee or voted on at that point. What did they say? If it's really important and critical, they'll do it now. If it isn't really critical, we'll study it and put a prioritized number maybe on it, so that the things that are critical are handled first, and things that aren't that important are handled. Okay, so this will allow the flexibility needed when a new law is needed now, just like I said. It will also allow for a more thorough study of the consequences of the law down the road if that's what's needed. That law can be voted on by the full House at any time when there is a majority who asks for it. In other words, it can't be held hostage in committee or by any of the stupid, foolish rules of protocol. Of course, the intelligent game players will find ways to get around that if you let them. The concept is that all suggested laws will be prioritized, and then they'll be voted on with no group or person stopping the process with the little games called rules. Review the rules and change them if they don't meet that requirement. Review the rules and change them if they don't meet that requirement, and that's by law. That's a law. That's one of the first things you tell them. Look, pass a law that says anybody that tries to stop these things, they're into the legal system. Don't allow the House to make their own rules unregulated. A few minutes here will save months of work later. It'll probably save years of work later. This is one of those pivotal points we talked about before. A small amount of work here will bring a huge result later. Remember I'm saying one of the things that we're trying to do is point to pivotal places where if you take a little bit of time, it'll save you a tremendous amount of time down the road, or keep catastrophes from happening if that's what's going to happen. So then they say the next need is to remove the unrelated attachments to the law or proposal. What did they say? The game is to attach pork barrel or special interest riders to a proposed piece of legislation. As the legislation is brought before the full House, the rules say that it must be voted on as a whole piece and can't be taken apart. We say that any piece of legislation can be taken apart by the full House and then sent back to committee or voted on at that point. In any case, no unrelated rider or attachment may be added. No games. What they say? If you're voting on whether to cut or sell federal land trees to a lumber company, we do not want a rider attached to that saying that this farmer can have this water. In other words, it better be related to the law that they're dealing with, or it can't be attached to that law. So what do? They say, okay, we're going to have military spending appropriation here, and attached to that law are 300 other things because you're going to pay for your military. And we know that, so we'll just attach these riders and they'll pass. No. Take all the riders off and just vote for paying for the military. That's the law. And basically they say no games. And if you've got congressmen and senators that are voted by you, they're going to care what you, two things, they're going to care what you think, and what you think will be determined by what the People's Trust News is informing you about, and you can trust them because they're being watched by you and you're paying for them, and nobody else has got their fingers in the you understand. So they say that's it for the laws. As we always say, there's more to think about, but you get the idea. You make servants responsible for their actions, your servants. You make them leave true paper trail for their decisions. That's a bureaucratic rule. Find out who's making the correct decisions and promote him or her. Yeah, remember, that's what they want. Find out who isn't and demote him or her or fire him. Keep things simple and understandable. We can move the game players from those expensive welfare positions to productivity, and when we do that, we'll be a lot happier. So that covers it for, and what they said here is that's the end for laws. We're going to move to chapter 3, which is economics next. So hopefully they've covered, it's a lot of complicated stuff here, but hopefully it's understandable and it'll work. And that's the key to the whole thing. Is they always say two things: read what it was that we said, or listen to what it was that we said, and do that. And then the other thing is you have elected officials, and they're not stupid. They're smarter than the average person, and they know how to do the research and find out the things that will work and won't work. So let them work it out. If you have problems, if something isn't working out, let them go in there and change it. A lot of times there's things that you change in the law, and then you find out that the change doesn't give you what it is that you wanted. And what you wanted was justice, and all it gives you is this harsh thing that you have to follow. They don't want that. They want you to focus on justice and make that the highest priority in the legal system. And in order to do that, there are certain things that you have to do, and the people that you voted to make the laws can look at it and fine-tune it and fix it. And they say, sure, there are going to be things that won't work, and they won't work because we're dealing with human beings. No matter how logical you are, sometimes you have to take into account human beings. And human beings, when you're taking them into account, especially if justice is going to be your highest priority, that's sometimes a tough thing to measure. And we're letting the 12 jurors measure it. And, you might have to fine-tune that. So ends the discussion on laws.